CLA is a tool we can use to be more effective in our jobs and improve collaboration between staff members. Don't worry about being a little confused about causal layered analysis. I felt the same way when my professor asked me to use CLA as the methodology for my doctoral research. However, after completing my project, I was hooked, and now CLA is part of every workshop I teach. I like to use an iceberg as a metaphor. CLA has 4 layers. The first layer is the litany layer. Using an iceberg as an example, the litany layer is the tip of the iceberg, or what we see at the surface. To relate this in day-to-day practical terms, this layer represents the general conversations we have in the hallways, around the lunchroom table, or at meetings. Let's use a student as an example to illustrate what we mean by litany layer, or what we see at the surface. Josh is a 4th grade student. Josh enjoys entertaining his fellow classmates and teacher. He has a magical way of using his time and writing tools wisely. Josh is a rocker, plopper, and flopper. By day's end, he's pulled his discipline cards, stayed in from recess, and has his name on the board with 3 check marks after it. Each year he is passed on to the next teacher, and the conversation year to year goes something like this. In order to help Joshua and his teacher, we need to put on our scuba gear and dive below the surface of the iceberg. The second layer of CLA is the systemic layer. In this layer, we ask questions about how the systems in place limit or support Joshua and his teacher. So let's join a conversation with teachers and therapists who are discussing Joshua's situation as it relates to the second layer, the systemic layer.
What we thought of is that there's the requirement for him to sit still 6.5 hours a day. And within that day, there's sustained learning time. So you have, your reading group that's an hour and a half long, and he can't sit for that. You already told us the negative that's towards him and his condition that's sort of festering, so that when teachers pass him on year to year, you're going, oh, I got to tell you about this kid. So then that kind of perpetuates it. There's frequently limited class support, so that teacher may have a large class that year, 4 ELL students, 2 IEP students, 3 other kids that are bouncing off the wall, so there's not a lot of support for all that's going on in her classroom, so he's just one more issue. School-wide and nationwide, there's less PE and less recess. And that teachers use recess as a way of controlling behavior by taking away recess when the kid needs the recess more than anything else. So those are the things that we thought of system-wide.
As we continue diving deeper, we are now approaching the third layer of CLA. This layer is the worldview layer, where we unpack our assumptions, perceptions, and personal worldviews. Let's rejoin the conversation between the teachers and therapists as they discuss the worldview layer and how assumptions, perceptions, and worldviews affect Joshua's situation.
Our assumptions, we said, just going into the year, it's going to be the same as last year. We know he'll definitely be a challenge. He doesn't belong in the classroom or needs a certain teacher to deal with him. If he just had meds, everything would be fine. He's immature, and he's just a boy. He'll grow out of it. And sometimes as therapists, we said, if we just do this, I know it'll work for him. And then it's too much work sometimes to find an alternate setting, so just kind of deal with it.
Hoping we have enough oxygen in our tanks, we dive to the deepest layer, the myth and metaphor layer. It is at the deepest layer where we get to the heart of a situation. How do long-standing myths, metaphors, or personal stories and beliefs affect how we see a situation? Let's join our group again and listen to their myth and metaphor discussion.
We had some positive and negative metaphors for the collaboration process. So first the negatives, square peg in a round hole, uphill battle in terms of getting buy-in from the staff, the teacher in particular, putting out fires at the last minute, and so that's the kids that are coming every year to guidance team, but nobody's actually doing anything, or they're not even bringing them to guidance team, and then everything comes to a head, and it's it's hard to deal with it at that point. Wanting a quick fix, so that's they just want the kid out of the class or somebody else to deal with it, or they don't want to really buy into some really good things to do in the class. And then some of the positive ones are light at the end of the tunnel, and then a candle burning brighter. So if there is buy-in, and if people want to really improve the the educational life of the student, what can they do? And if they really do it and really buy in, that it could actually make a difference.
So how can CLA change this annual conversation and create a collaborative environment that supports Joshua and his teacher? I hope you found this presentation helpful. You can use causal layered analysis whenever you want to understand more fully why collaboration with one another is complex. By unpacking the 4 layers, we build relationships that empower one another by respecting the unique viewpoints and skill sets we each bring to the collaboration process.